In this week's episode, we talk about staff members that don't perform, we talk about Malcolm Turnbull, and did you know the Bible has advice for startups? Hi and welcome to episode 9 of Business Greenhouse TV. Got lots to cover in this episode. We're going to go deep in a lot of content. But before we get there, the podcast is ready. So you can now go and get the podcast, listen to it, mowing lawns, driving, exercising, whatever it is that you want to do, but you don't have to sit there and watch it anymore. You can just listen. So let me link up a little link for you to go and get that. Excellent. And some other exciting news, like I'm literally a few minutes away from filming this, jumping in the car, getting to the airport. I've got to go down and do a talk for the Kingdom Economy Conference in Sydney. Super excited to be down with Phil and Laura Lee Colley, down there to do a couple of days of training on kingdom, biblical economics, you know, how to scale up a kingdom business and that sort of stuff. So super excited to go and spend there. So filming this straight down there, and by the time you're watching this show, I'll just be back from doing that conference. So super excited. Let's get into today's content. Michelle, what is our first question?
We have a private message. How can I deal with a staff member who causes trouble and doesn't perform very well?
How do I deal with a staff member who is troublemaker and doesn't perform well? I think that's a great question. And I think if you're going to be in business for a little while, if you're going to be building a business of any kind of size, then you're going to have this issue of a staff member who's underperforming or is a gossiper or something like that, who is kind of upsetting the apple cart, if you like. So I think my way of dealing with it is both ruthless and soft at the same time, okay? So I think there's things that you have to practically do to the staff member. I think there's things that you can do behind the scenes. You know, one of the privilege of being a believer is we have these Jedi privileges as part of the kingdom that we can bring and use and watch what happens. Let me give an example. What I would be doing if I got a staff member who's not performing or is a bit of a troublemaker, I'd be going to their station, wherever they work, and I'd be praying over their station. I'd be laying hands on their chair. I'd even go so far as to go and get some cooking oil and anoint their station and watch what happens, okay? Be praying over it, be asking God to intervene that physical area and watch what happens. Pray, cast the enemy out, you know, take dominion like we're told to do and start to use that area and watch what happens. Like you watch somebody who's a troublemaker every day, then you go and do that a few nights in a row, then you stand around the corner and watch. And in my experience, you know, like that stuff just disappears, okay? But it doesn't disappear forever. You can't just like pray once and then they come back and then, you know, it's going to be fine forever. Like you may have to repeat that process, okay? So that's something you can do. That's the spiritual element to the answer, because you can do that, no worries, and it's a very fun thing to do. It's walking out your salvation and using what God has given us to use. So that's one thing. Practically though, you know, when this happens, I think the first thing you've got to do is address it with the staff member. And a lot of people don't want to through, you know, fear of them leaving. Well, if they stay, it's bad. So you may as well run the risk of, you know, fixing the situation in this day. If they leave and you've got to get somebody else, that's bad, but it was bad anyway, so it's just bad. So you're better off to confront it and go to them and say, listen, I need to talk to you about this, okay? And then you take them through that process. Now, they may quit, they may walk, they may do all those sort of things, and that's fine. Just trust the process that somebody else is going to come that is better for you in the business. But practically, I like to put them on a program called Average to Awesome, okay? So they're currently average and I've got to get them to awesome. I'm the owner of the business, I'm their leader. It's my job to take them from average to awesome. So I outline some steps, some critical milestones, some things for them to do over a specific time frame. So it could be 1 month from average to awesome. So in this 1 month, I want to see you do these activities and report back to me that you can all of a sudden do them, okay? Now, whether you call it average to awesome to the staff member is up to you. You can or you can't, doesn't really matter. But you're basically saying to them, this is where you're at, this is where I need you to go, and these are the milestones. By the end of week 1, I want to see this from you. At the end of week 2, I want to see this from you. 3 and 4, I want to see these things from you. And what happens is, if they can't do it along that journey, they'll vote themselves off the island and you won't have to let them go. Or they toe the line, they become a good person, they become a good staff member, and they contribute to the business. But it's having a structure, it's having a process. So it's about combining the spiritual element, exercising your dominion that we've been asked to do, and then having a practical strategy to move them from where they are to where they need to be. And if it doesn't work and you need to let them go, here's a funny thing. You can sack someone and still go to heaven. So it's okay to let somebody go, but you want to have put them through a process prior to give them a chance to step up before you just move them straight out because they don't perform. I think that's a fair way, a nice way, a godly way to end the relationship, giving them a chance to step up, step in and do the right thing before you have to let them go, rather than just go in with anger and just sack them. Okay, so I would be putting them through an average to awesome type program structure, and also praying for them, praying for their workstation, praying for whatever it is that they're doing in your business, and watching those two combine. Because when we get the practical and the spiritual, we put them together, it's a springboard for mighty exploits. So that's what I would be doing with a staff member who's a troublemaker, and so forth. Solid. I think that was a pretty good answer to a question. Today's show brought to you by Twining's peppermint tea. So going for a bit of the old digestion tea today, which is good. Michelle, what is question number 2?
Jack O'Brien asks, what are your thoughts on Malcolm Turnbull? And what should Christians look for in politicians and political parties?
Okay, so Jack, on the show again. Great to have you back. He's a good supplier of questions, so keep them coming. What do I think of Malcolm Turnbull, and how do Christians choose a political party? Interesting one. Now, obviously, I have lots of opinions. I have an opinion on Malcolm Turnbull. I don't want to get too much into what he has and hasn't done. I spend a little bit of time on the first bit of what I think of him, and I want to spend more time on how do we pick a political party, because I think that's more valuable. So for those of you that are outside Australia, who is Malcolm Turnbull? He is our new Prime Minister. He has been our Prime Minister now for about 4.5 minutes because he overthrew the last guy, and he wasn't voted in, but now he's in because he thought he was a better option. He rallied support and overthrew the last Prime Minister. What do I think of him? I have some concerns, of course, because some of his values aren't aligned with mine. And that's okay. They don't have to be. It's not like, it's not like we need a raving Pentecostal Christian prime minister to have a good country. So, but what we can do is, irrespective of who's in, like, our job as people is to lobby them to bring good culture, to bring good values, to bring good principles back into society that's missing, okay? So that's what we can do, irrespective of who's in. So it's less about who's in and more about our activity level to hold them accountable to the things that they said that were good, and to lobby bad policy that's going to come in that's detrimental to society. So that's what we can do. What do I think of him? I think he holds himself pretty well. One of the things I don't like is the way that he got in. So again, from those of you from outside Australia, we've had like 96 prime ministers in 12 months, it feels like, because they just keep overthrowing each other to get in. I just don't like the system because he didn't get in voted. He did backstabbing to get in. And so, like, that's un-Australian, really, for somebody to do that. And for everybody that's done it in the past, it hasn't worked for them. Because although they get in, everyone's a bit dirty with the process of how they got in. So generally, I don't think it works. My prediction, if you like, is that if he's no good for the next 6 months, you'll find Julie Bishop do exactly the same thing, because I'm sure she's gunning for the top job, okay? So that's what I think's going on the inside. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. I personally have some reservations on Malcolm Turnbull. Having said that, he's done pretty well in the opening time. He's done pretty well so far. So credit where credit's due. Now let's look at it slightly differently. My Bible says pray for my leaders. So irrespective of whether I like him, irrespective of whether you like him, we need to be praying for him. So for the last 10 years, I've been praying for my leaders, mostly that they would stand down, but I've still been praying for my leaders. But you want to be praying that, good godly wisdom comes across them. There are people around them with good godly counsel that can talk into their lives. They're the things that we need to be praying for, irrespective of who's in, because the Bible says we should be praying for our leaders, okay? So that's one thing that we should be doing. Let's go to how do you choose a political party, because very hot topic. It's great. I get the job of talking about religion and politics, okay? So yay me, like I've got a great job. When it comes to politics, how do you pick a party? I think the time has come and gone where we need to make a decision based on ourselves. I think far too many people are sitting down going, okay, I'm looking at this party and this party, which one benefits me most? I had a conversation with a lady during the last election. She had written it all out. If I go with this party, they remove my tax benefit. They give me this, they remove this. If I go with this party, I've got this one. Like, I'm $7 a week worse off with this one, so I'm voting for this guy. And I said, do you understand? Like, we've got to stop thinking about me and think about a generation that's coming. We can't keep borrowing. We can't keep printing. We can't keep having this bad socialistic policy where we rob the rich and give it to the poor. It doesn't work. We need to have a government that foster entrepreneurship. The governments only have two strategies: increase taxes and reduce costs. And they increase taxes and they never reduce cost. Whereas a much better system is foster entrepreneurship to get more income. I mean, we know that as business people. That's the kind of thing we need to bring in. But I think, how do we pick a political party, forget about you, and start to think about the next generation? Be prepared to be worse off so that the next generation don't inherit these massive debts that they can never come back from, okay? That's what I think we need to be doing. So we're praying for our leaders, but forget about us. I'm prepared to be worse off with whichever government financially so that the next generations are looked out for. And if we turn back the clock just 6 months, that's what Joe Hockey, our last treasurer, was very good at. He was very good at making the hard decisions to make the big cuts to bring us back to a surplus. Population didn't like it, so they brought the new guy. But that is what we need. We need somebody who's going to make the hard decisions, get back with a surplus, so that the next generations to come actually have a fighting chance at prospering. I think that's what we need. Religion and politics. Who would have thought? Very exciting. Word of the week. This week, we're going to go to a cheeky little proverb. Proverbs 13:11. And it says this: dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. Okay? Dishonest money dwindles away, whoever makes it little by little makes it grow. So here's this trend that is creeping into the entrepreneurial world at the moment. It's almost like everybody needs to come up with a startup idea, race over to Silicon Valley, raise $1 billion, list the company, and everyone's happy. Well, the problem I have with that is that, like, for every one person that might get that level of investment, there are 10,000 failures in the startup world. So, and it's almost not sustainable anyway. They're very short lifespans, most of those businesses that raise big dollars. They don't ever really go past a decade. A few have, but hardly ever. They go off, everyone makes all their money, and then they fail because technology moves on and they don't innovate enough to stay relevant. So, like, that's this thing, and it's become romantic that's what you're meant to do. You're meant to go into business and by Friday be a billionaire with a Rolls Royce and 3 jets. And I think it's a shame because it's not reality. Yes, it might be good for Instagram, but it's not reality. So I think where we've got to get to is little bit by little bit is blessed, okay? So go back to your world now. Every single month, a small portion of money, you need to take it out of the business and lock it away, whether that be paying down debt to get your equity levels higher, whether it be saving it, or whether it be investing it. Like, over time, that's how you make money. You make money because you take little and often out of your business, and you build an equity base that makes you wealthy. Very rarely does anybody ever get the big hit once off, the big dream where they make their money. Like, that would be less than 1% of people in business that make it wealthy, make it through one big hit. The rest is little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit. By the way, it's a better way to go. Let me explain why. As part of the kingdom, we have an economy that's slightly different. I think like, God's way more interested in our character than our cash flow, okay? So if your character hasn't caught up to the level of your cash flow, you'll make dumb mistakes. We know it. We've got the statistics and the data on the people that win the lottery and end up worse off. It's like more than 80% that win the lottery are worse off in 2 years. And that's simply because their mental capacity, their mental maturity with money hasn't caught up to the level of money that they've got. And God's the same. He wants you to mature financially at the same level as you become wealthy. Therefore, you don't blow it. You don't have things that come into your life that are detrimental to you, okay? So He wants it all to grow at the same time, which is why He says little bit by little bit will make it grow. So Forget the pressure of needing to be a billionaire by Friday. Just look at your business right now. It doesn't matter whether you're taking $100 a week, $500 a month, $10,000 a month, $100,000 a month out of your business. What are you taking out of your business and putting it somewhere so that it grows little bit by little bit by little bit, like little bit over time? And then your maturity level goes at the same level and you sustain it, you make great money, the pressure is off, and life gets pretty sweet at that level. And hopefully by telling you that, it should be a little bit less stressful. Don't worry about the expectation of what the media says. Just do it little bit by little bit, compounding, and you will win. Very solid episode 9. I feel like it wasn't so much businessy, but still highly practical, hopefully. Remember, go get the podcast, businessgreenhouse.com.au/podcast. Go there. You can either have it on your iPhone or you can go to Stitcher if you've got a different device and just download it, listen to it, share it with your friends, and that will be a pretty solid thing for you to do. Get it in there, listen to it more than once, and then actively use the stuff that I'm sharing. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.